Hello, 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 hello. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Let me make sure that my video and audio is set up okay. I might have to redo this. Let's see. Where are we? All right, let me go live with Rockfin. All right, guys. Sorry, it's just me running this program, and as you can see, I'm on camera today. How do you like my flowers in the background? Actually, JP took that picture, and those are the California poppies that are in our front yard right now. So it looks like I have the right microphone set up. Let me make sure that Rockfin is streaming okay. Looks like it is. How about some of the other platforms? Looks like we are good to go. Let's see here. Yeah. Whoop. Sorry about that. Let me put that on mute. All right. So, hello. How is everybody today? I'm going to be flipping around with different screens here. Obviously, this is a different format than you typically see me in, and I'm doing a bunch of things at one time, so you'll just have to bear with me while I log into some other platforms. And if you guys can hear me okay, then give it a thumbs up, or better yet, make a comment. Let's see if I can get to the chat. Oh, hello. Thank you. So you like the flowers? It's pretty cool, huh? Let me just log into this program here. Sorry, guys. This takes when it's just me, it takes a little extra time and effort. I want to give somebody very special a shout out right now, and I'm having trouble logging in, so just give me a minute. I want to give somebody very special a shout out, and I'll share that information on the screen. Just give me one sec. Sorry, I have to do a few things. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Today is Tuesday, May 23rd. That's what it is. It's about 2:00 in the afternoon. And we had a great weekend. We had great. I'm glad everything looks good and sounds good. That's great. We had such a fun weekend today. A friend came with his wife and visited us from Georgia, and we went out to dinner. We went out to a Hawaiian themed restaurant, and then we went to a Oaxacan place. Then the following night, and I believe there was some pinball action going on, and it was super fun. So I want to give him a shout out, and I'm going to try to do a screen share here. So bear with me because I'm doing it all on my own, and I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing here. And boom, how's that? How does that look? Great. You can see that there's my friend, and he's in this band called Faithless Town. So if you have a chance to go and check out his CD and his music, please go to his website, which is faithlesstown.com. Thank you, Frida. Go to faithlesstown.com, I believe it is. Let me just make sure. And yeah, faithlesstown.com. The band is Faithless Town, and they have their new listen to it. JP and I listened to it, and it is good. So you guys have to check it out. Also, from what I understand, they will be playing. Let's see if there's news of where they're going to be. It doesn't look like. Oh, here we go. Let's see. See, there they are. I'm sure some of you will recognize the lead guy there. Nice guitar. I think they're going to be in Franklin, Tennessee this weekend. Or coming up in June. They're going to be in Franklin. There it is, Franklin, Tennessee, for the Rebels for a Cause tour, and they're going on at 11. So, and then they're going to be playing in Decatur, Georgia, a couple weeks later. So can you guys see that okay? Let me see. Yeah, you should be able to see that okay. So yeah, if you're in the area, go check him out. Go to his website and take a look at the new album and where they're going to be playing. I wish we could go, but it's, we're actually going. We're going to be traveling. Now let's see if I can bring myself back up a little bit bigger. There we go. We're going to be traveling in June, so we won't have a chance to go to that show, but I do think that you guys should definitely check out his band for sure. So let's see, a couple of things I wanted to just kind of go over. Let me show our website. Let me see here if I can bring that screen in again. Our website is book-of-hours.com, and that is, yeah. Where is it? There it is. That's what our website looks like. So you guys have a chance to go to the website and take a look at some of the videos that we have. Now I'm going to update this probably this week or maybe next week and give you some new videos that have come out since then. This is the blog site where you go to Blog of Ours, and it shows all of the audio blogs that I do, and all of the blog posting that I do. So you guys can check that out. And if you want to support us, you could actually go to this page and support us. And there's and I usually include the link for that in all the blog posts. So you can follow us on Twitter. And so speaking of Twitter, I want to take you right to a tweet that's going to link into another thing that I found on the NIAID website. So that's how you can support us. But what I want to do now is, obviously I titled this, Natasha says orange is her least favorite color. It's actually my favorite color, one of my favorite colors. But I love the California poppies, especially, right? So what I want to do is I want to see if I can play this very short tweet video for you. It's like a minute long. It's not very long at all. So let me see if I can do that. Let me grab the screen and I'll bring it in because I kind of want to go through something with you and see if you can follow me in my train of thought, right? So let's see. There it is. This person is an Episcopalian priest, and so somebody that goes by the right side of history has tweeted her statement. So I'm going to mute myself, and hopefully you guys will be able to hear this. Please make a comment if you can't, and we'll figure something else out. Okay, we're all learning here. So as I do this on my own, so I'm going to mute myself. All right, give me 1 sec.
So we just got the call. Apparently the entire department of adolescent medicine at Dell Children's here in Austin is gone. All of the doctors have been fired. No one will come out, of course, and say it's because they were offering gender affirming care. And yet, last Friday, it hit the newspapers that Paxton was going to be suing. By the way, laws against gender affirming care for youth have not passed yet. But apparently, when you combine fascism with capitalism and the fact that the medical industry is for profit, this is what you get. And these doctors didn't just do gender affirming care. They handled things like eating disorders, the OB-GYN issues. Since it was part of Dell Children's, then for cancer survivor kids like mine, this is where they would get referred to. My God.
Okay, you guys, did you guys get that statement? Because it's really, if you didn't know what you were really hearing, you might even be sympathetic towards her. You might even be like, yeah, this is terrible. But she is calling something called gender affirming care. It's basically surgery for children that would want to transition, which I'm against, just philosophically against that. And so what happened was at this children's hospital in Austin, Texas, they took the department that focused on gender affirming care, and it also had like eating disorder care and maybe like cancer care, all part of this one department at the children's hospital. And so what they did is they basically cleared that department out completely. So ultimately they closed down the department. So she uses all the right buzzwords, doesn't she? She uses the term fascism in the correct way, which is the government and the corporations getting together to benefit themselves, but not the people. She talks about how the hospital industrial complex is for profit. Like all these things, excuse me, let me get some water. Like all these things that she talks about, like we all agree with, correct? Like we understand that, you know, it's a for-profit system now. Now we understand more than ever, right? So she uses all the right buzzwords and she expresses herself very well and she's very articulate. And if you didn't know better, you would think that she actually was on the right side of history. Um, you know, especially the fact that she's showcasing her statement on a Twitter page that's called The Right Side of History. So it could be very confusing, right? So, but what she's really complaining about is the fact that this department has been cleared out completely. So, and again, it is a department in a children's hospital located in Austin, Texas. So there's two things going on here. In my opinion, based on my own understanding of the way closure of departments work, typically when you close a department in a corporation, because that's what hospitals are, they are corporations. Typically, when you close a department, it's because that department is not yielding um, uh, any any benefit to the company. It's not benefiting the company somehow. Something tells me this department was at a loss, and so they had all these doctors that were employed within this department that they had to pay a salary to. They had to pay, all sorts of costs to keep this department running. And so, in my opinion, they closed the department because there's no business. People were not bringing their children in for gender affirming care. Maybe there weren't that many cancer patients to actually treat, and they could be rehoused in another cancer wing. Maybe there's no children coming into that particular department with eating disorders, which, as you remember, this woman said, this Episcopalian priest said that children with eating disorders were also cared for in this department. So basically what this tells me is they just didn't have the reason to keep the department open anymore. So they closed it. So that's fine. That's like a business decision. That has to do with the fact that it's not bringing in the revenue stream that they had planned for it to bring in. But there's something else that I want to talk about that's a little more nuanced, and it's about gender affirming care, or it's about the trans medical ideology, or the treatments that trans kids are getting, or trans people. I really do think that what we're looking at with this trans story is something to kind of a placeholder, something that's like a placeholder. They're kind of using it as a way to funnel in some money into the hospitals. They're using this story as a way to open up revenue streams until the real care or research can get put into place. And so this is where I want to take you over to the ReVAMPP project, whatever it's called, with the NIAID, which is the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Disease, right? The NIAID. And I believe, and anybody who's listening or watching can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that Anthony Fauci was the director of the NIAID, but that he's going to retire this December, I think. So if I have that right, you guys can let me know. If I have it wrong, you can correct me. I'm fine with that. So let's go ahead and bring in this article from the NIAID, and let's take the story of this department that's closing in Austin, Texas, in the Children's Hospital in Austin, Texas. Let's take that story and let's see if we can apply it to this NIAID.nih.gov April 2023 sort of memo that went out. So let me share the screen, and I really appreciate. Maybe it was last December. Okay, thank you, Natasha. Thank you for that correction. So let's go ahead and share that screen. Share screen. Share. How am I doing this? There we go. Screen. Yes. I want to bring in this one. All right, you guys can see this screen, right? This is the ReVAMPP network. The NIAID plans $100 million for pandemic preparedness. This is from April of 2023. And so let me read this a little bit to you. So the NIAID published 3 notices of funding opportunities called NOFOs to launch a new research and development of vaccines and monoclonal antibodies for pandemic preparedness network. So the research and development is the RE part of the ReVAMPP acronym, and vaccines and monoclonal antibodies for pandemic preparedness is the VAMP part of the acronym. ReVAMPP, research and development of vaccines and monoclonal antibodies for pandemic preparedness. ReVAMPP. So 2 of the NOFOs, that's the funding opportunities. So notices of funding opportunities are seeking applications for research centers focused on specific virus families. And the 3rd NOFO aims to establish a coordinating center for the ReVAMPP network. I always feel like I'm possibly throwing a bucket of tepid water over everybody's good mood. Of course, we want to celebrate the fact that this department in Austin, this department of this children's hospital in Austin, Texas, has removed the doctors that are going to participate in gender affirming surgery. Of course, we want to celebrate that fact. But when I read something like this, and I'm thinking of it from like a business perspective, this $100 million that they want to funnel into research centers. Those research centers are going to need to be probably part of labs, part of hospitals. And so, unfortunately, the cynic that I am, I kind of feel that this particular department that's been completely cleared out is now going to be filled in with researchers and various other individuals. And that whole department, since it's already there and it has a lab and it has all the infrastructure already in place, then it's probably going to benefit the children's hospital, and then the larger network of the children's hospital is probably going to benefit them because they'll be able to get this funding stream through the ReVAMPP network. So this is what we're talking about when we say that pandemic preparedness is not really going anywhere. It's not really going away. It's continuing. And you can always tell that it's continuing through these these NOFOs, which are the notices of funding opportunities and the applications to apply for the funding. So the NOFO calls for centers proposing research on virus families from, and I don't even want to pronounce those two virus families, Flavividae and Talgarver, whatever. I don't even know. So the NOFO's purpose is to establish comprehensive, cooperative, basic, and translational research centers to carry out in-depth research on prototype members of select virus families that have the potential to emerge as pandemic pathogens. Okay. So this is a really good link for you guys to look at. And when you look at it, you have to realize that you're still the hunted. Like, we're being hunted, right? And so when they talk about, pathogen research or pandemic research, what they're really talking about is running experiments, right? So that's what this is really about, is hunting people to continue to run experiments on them. So we just have to be prepared and get ahead of it and kind of starve the system. Don't play, don't be a part of this. And so if you were to go to, any search engine that you feel you want to go to, whether it's Google or DuckDuckGo, and you were to just type in pandemic preparedness or NOFO, type in the term NOFO, which is the Notice of Funding Opportunities, you will probably get a lot of hits for a lot of different labs or a lot of different agencies. You see? So, and this is just one example of that. There's a funding stream, I think, that is ultimately going to come out to be around $10 billion or more in the COVID rollout, in the whole COVID operation and the rollout of it and all the funding streams that opened. This term, $10 billion, or this amount, $10 billion, kept getting plastered everywhere. It was like all over the media, 10 billion, 10 billion, 10 billion. So I think they really just wanted people to have that number in mind. So this is 100 million specifically for pandemic preparedness, to be, based on what I'm reading, if I know what words mean, to allocate that money to specific centers. And so, for instance, the center that this Episcopalian minister was complaining about, that had just been emptied of doctors who were committing gender affirming surgeries and other things, was upset about that. And I feel that it's been earmarked for something like this. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just putting two and two together. So can everybody hear me okay? Is everybody good? And does everybody follow me so far? Hopefully this, makes sense to you. And so I want to continue this idea. I want to continue this idea, this concept of like saying true things. In my New Constitution Living War Crimes video essay that I did, I was definitely like, this is all DoD backed, and of course it is, but there are particular bad actors in every agency, and then there are those that are not. And the ones that are not the bad actors are trying to hold on to their positions so that they can, steer this ship back around to going the right direction, right? So it's about ready to go off a cliff. This is not good. We just keep pushing forward things and certain technologies and certain experiments and certain, what they're calling experimental prophylactic gene therapies, which is what they call them. So sometimes I call them as that as well, because I use their own language to weaponize against them. They're actually bioweapons. Um, I realize that there are certain members of the military that want to turn this ship around, and so they have to keep their positions, and so it must be a very difficult place for them to walk that fine line. So yeah, so Natasha, that is kind of what I am insinuating, or I'm intimating. I don't know for sure. Nobody knows for sure about anything. But typically, when a department is closed in a large corporation, it's because there isn't a valuable funding stream. The funding stream has dried up. So, in my opinion, that particular department, which was dedicated to certain types of care, one of them being gender affirming care, one of them being eating disorders, one of them being cancer follow up, that they just weren't getting the bodies in the door. And they couldn't justify the salaries of the staff, the salaries of the doctors who were the specialists in those fields. They simply couldn't justify it to keep it open. So they cleared it out. But now that they have an empty department that's all set up for running experiments, through biologics and through labs, and the infrastructure is there, the accounting infrastructure and all of the the administrative infrastructure is already there. So it's like, why would they build a new center for this revamp program that I talked about when there's one that's already there that's empty, right? I mean, we're talking about capitalists, right? They always want to figure out a way to, you know, make their money go the farthest, right? So that's sort of what I'm saying. I'm just I'm teasing the idea out. How's that? I'm teasing it out. Um, so in this continued movement towards saying true things, I want to make sure that when a person does go back and watch New Constitution Living War Crimes, that they remember that, although this is a big, the DoD is kind of driving this thing, this pandemic research, pathogen research, and things like that, that not everybody, in the DoD, and not every military apparatus, not every member, not every service member is on the wrong side of history. So there are people that are still in these agencies that are trying to do the right thing. And so, like I said, they're walking this really thin line, it's difficult for them, right? Um, so I think that we need to be aware of that, right? That's all I'm saying. And switching gears, totally, totally unrelated to what I had just been talking about, because I want you to kind of let it process in your mind and in your hearts and in your consciousness that the pandemic preparedness and the research that's going to go into pathogens isn't going anywhere. It's continuing. It's still a big part of our existence, especially in this country. Um, and so we have to think about that and what that means. Because remember, I mean, I do believe that this is taxpayer funded, correct? So these are things that we want to think about. Now, switching gears totally and completely, I'll bring in another mainstream article that caught my eye. Actually, it was interesting. Um, it caught my eye on a very non-mainstream platform, which is an old platform that nobody really goes to anymore. It's called the Daily Kos, and I think that they were always kind of like liberal, centrist, or liberal, um, and so they're not very popular anymore. But suddenly today, it's all over mainstream. So let me share this article, and we can kind of speculate what we think might be happening with this story, which I sort of alluded to on my social media page a little bit. I was like, what's going on here, you guys? So here it is. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me see if I can bring that back. Okay, can you see the headline there? And that looks like a Pittsburgh bridge. That looks like a bridge that's close to where I live. Interesting. 60,000 pounds of an explosive chemical is lost during a rail shipment, officials say. So the company transporting ammonium nitrate from Wyoming to California said that the release should pose no risk to public health or the environment if the loss resulted from a leak. So, you guys can certainly go in and read this. But basically, they're saying that it's missing, like it just disappeared during this rail trip from Wyoming to California last month. That does not leave me feeling good. Like ammonium nitrate, that's pretty bad stuff. Does anybody know what ammonium nitrate is used for? Does anybody know? Like they say, they call it an explosive chemical. I don't know. It feels as though, so remember when all the trains were wrecking and all the cars were exploding, and remember when that was trending a few months ago? It seems like it was a long time ago, but I guess it wasn't that long ago. Remember when that was trending? Well, there's a big one. Here's a really big one that no one's really talking about. Maybe we've all just become kind of like immune to it. And so Robert Walker says what JP had told me earlier too, that it's used for fertilizer, right? So do you think that do you feel, in your opinion, do you feel that this 60,000 pounds of lost chemical content is something that we might want to think about or be concerned about? I know that this is a mainstream article, so they do one of two things. They will either make it worse than it actually is, or they will downplay the seriousness of it. They'll downplay how serious it really is. So it left a plant operated by explosives manufacturer Dyno Nobel in Cheyenne, Wyoming, on April 12th. The incident report wasn't filed until May 10th, so almost a month later, with the National Response Center. So that's kind of weird. The report states that the chemical was released due to an unknown cause, but then was discovered missing after the rail car arrived. So this is really weird. I just feel that this is really strange. What do they mean really released? I mean, maybe they say further on in in the article, like, did they release it into the atmosphere? Did they release it into the water? Did they release it into another tanker? Like, what in the world? So I don't even know, like, maybe Robert knows. Let's see. Tommy of Tommy's podcast shared this theory that he thinks CV was one big excuse to test out the mRNA tech on billions of people before it's used on the elite folks. So that was Natasha's comment. And, there's all sorts of speculation. Of course, that we live in a neighborhood of deep poverty. It's seen better days. And I feel that our neighborhood in particular was targeted with the toxin because lots of people are dying around here. Now, back to the ammonium nitrate that has disappeared. Oops. Yeah. Let me see. Let me get back to that. Let's go back to the headline. So the 60,000 pounds that has disappeared, Robert says it's the same stuff used in the Oklahoma City bomb all those years ago. Whoa. Thank you for that, Robert. So Zachary says we're just lab rats speculating on what the lab coats are planning to do next. Exactly, right? So we're the rats sitting around going, I wonder what they're going to do next to us. Well, JP made a good point earlier when I was telling him about this headline that I saw. He was like, well, they might do something like, put it out there kind of like an earworm. And then maybe next year or something, they'll come back and say that, some bad actor out of China or Russia or somewhere like suddenly, bombed us with 60,000 pounds of this chemical, explosive chemical, right? And so it's the same kind of scenario that we saw on September 11th, 2001, where it was something that was done to us by our own government, but then we blamed somebody else, that kind of thing. So I see stuff like this and I go, okay, if you're talking explosive chemicals that have disappeared, I just wonder what our crafty little government is up to now. Like, what are you guys planning now? Right. So, and so I think Robert is on the right track. I think JP's on the right track. And Natasha, I don't think it's anything that would be done soon. I think that they put these out as what I call earworms to get it into our consciousness. And then they'll load up a bunch of other stuff in front of us to freak us out, and we'll forget about it so that a year from now, if they do what you're saying, then we will have forgotten, but they will have CYA like covered their asses by saying, oh, well, we told you that there was, missing explosive content. So they're doing things. They put out these stories in order to, go back to the public and say, well, we already told you this a year ago. Why are you freaking out? You see what I'm saying? So this is what being in a constant state of trauma does, I think, to people, is they forget. So stuff is put out, then a bunch of other bad stuff happens. We get traumatized and we forget about what Frida just said, the earworms, right? Which is what I call them. So I thought that was an interesting story. Let me get rid of this screen. And I thank you for your input on that as well. Something else that really caught my eye too, which was kind of strange, especially because it came right on the heels of the missing chemical story, or the missing ammonium nitrate story, is this story. Do you guys see this headline? Senators are issued satellite phones and are offered demonstrations on upgraded security devices. So let me go ahead and read more comments. I like this format a lot because I can see everybody's comment, and I like reading comments because I feel like we're having a conversation rather than me just talking, right? So Zachary says, if the debt ceiling deal isn't reached, it would make sense to have another massive sideshow distraction internally to shift our attention away from international backlash about debt. Right on. Like, I really do feel that another aspect to this entire situation that we're living, this life, is about the Bank of International Settlements and this debt ceiling, and just this mounting debt globally, and then also locally here in the United States. So Natasha has a good question about sort of like the chemical nature of ammonium nitrate. So ammonium nitrate doesn't need to be so-called fresh. I get what you're saying. Maybe they will put it in containers to make it viable. Maybe they will experiment on it to make it more viable. I don't know. It's kind of like, and let me just go off on a little tangent here, and then I'll talk about this headline that's up here. It's kind of like when we discovered how much, I'm not a scientist or anything, but how much metallic substances like aluminum and stuff were in the atmosphere spraying. And you know me, I like to base my hypotheses or my opinions about like what's going on in the world based on anecdotal evidence or things I see with my own two eyes or things that my neighbors tell me. And my neighbors and other people who have dogs were telling me, especially my friend who's a dog walker in Chicago, was telling me that the dogs were experiencing more pain than they've ever experienced on their paws when they were walking in the snow. And we think it has to do with the fact that the spraying and stuff up in the sky is causing, like when it snows, is causing it to have a more metallic feel. And have you ever felt something that's like super cold and metal? It like it hurts your bones, it hurts your tissue more than just like if you were just galloping in the snow, right? Yeah, so empirical and anecdotal. Thank you, Josette. Yeah, so I'm hearing this a lot. I heard it from my dog walking friend. I heard it from my neighbors. I heard it from other people that dogs who live in snow were experiencing more pain in their paws from, and then Claudia Stauber did something like that too. That's good. Some things I don't agree with her, but yeah, she did have the snow analyzed years ago. I remember that. And I think there was a high concentration of metals in the snow. So I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but there we go. So we know that there's something going on. So in response to Natasha's question, which is a good one, it's a scientific question, I think, is that she wonders how fresh the chemicals have to be in order for them to work effectively. And I would say that chances are they could put them in containers, put the chemicals in containers, or they could experiment on them and make them more deadly, right? So, kind of like they're experimenting in the skies, and then we saw what happened with the dogs, right? So, right, and then some people are lighting the snow on fire, which is crazy. Well, there's a river in, I think it's an urban legend, but it's based in reality. There's like a river, I think, in Ohio or whatever, that's randomly catches fire. I don't know. I think they even made a movie around that story. I don't know, but that's how toxic our waterways are. That's how toxic our environment is. So here's a really interesting headline, which I've had up here this entire time I've been talking. Senators have been issued satellite phones and are offered demonstrations on upgraded security devices. So what do you guys think that's about? So this is from yesterday, or from the day before yesterday. So they are saying, according to CBS News, that there were growing concerns of security risks to members of Congress because of what happened on January 6th. But do you think that they're just using the January 6th story as a cover to give these members of Congress these special satellite phones? And so why do members of Congress need special satellite phones? It would be to have a private network to communicate with them on, correct? And were all the members of Congress given them, or some, or only some members? Oh, well, right here it says to 100 senators. And so 50 did accept the phones. So 50 people actually have the phones. It kind of, you know what this story reminded me of? This is a total conspiracy story. But you know what? You know that story of what was it? George Bush's funeral. Remember that story? And like Hillary Clinton. Do you remember that? Do you remember? Oh wait, I wish I had the video. Hillary Clinton opened up the what was it called when you give people the thing about the dead person? I forget what it's called. I've only been to like one funeral in my life, so I don't know what they're called, but it's like the brochure. And then she opens it up, and oh no, an envelope falls out. Do you guys remember that? And Jimmy Carter, was it Jimmy Carter that was sitting right next to her? And he's opening his. He's like, "Where's mine?" And he's like opening it and he's shaking it. He's like, "What? I want one too. I want an envelope." So remember that? So that's what this satellite story reminded me of. Some senators are getting the satellite phone and some aren't. Do you guys have a clue as to why senators would be issued a satellite phone? Let me bring up the let me bring up the link again so that you guys can actually see the headline yourself and get, and start thinking about like, why would we be issuing satellite phones to some senators and to some members of Congress? So they're saying that it's a security backstop in case of an emergency that takes out communications in parts of America. And Department of Homeland Security is involved, saying that satellite phones are a tool for responding to and coordinating government services in the case of a man-made or natural disaster. Okay. The House Sergeant at Arms, William McFarland, told legislators that there is robust participation in a program to help House members secure their home residences. What is going on? Because, January 6th is just the cover story. What is really going on? Like, are you talking about like secure their home residence? Are you talking about house arrest? Like, are they telling us openly that some of our members of Congress will need their home residences secured? That's a very marshmallow way of saying house arrest, in my opinion. So McFarland said that House administrators are coordinating with local police departments to help protect members of Congress. Are they expecting an attack? Like, what's going on? What do you guys think? So if the grid would collapse, but why would the grid collapse? What would make the grid collapse? Good point, Kimberly. Civil war. That's a good. That's actually a good response. Or home residences are fortified so citizens can't get at them. So maybe collapsing the entire grid for the peasants, and then the members of Congress are kept in communication with each other and with their banks and with various other things that they need for survival, but yet collapsing everything else. That seems a little extreme, but why not? Let's see. Let's go back and read what Zachary said. He always has something really interesting to say. there was a flight to Africa that Bush took where they told the press to remove the batteries from their phones, because even if their phones were off with the battery in, the mics in the phones could still listen. Wow, that's interesting. So, yeah, you know that our cell phones are just like, they're just like our ankle bracelets, right? Perhaps they're going to own up about the bioweapon and we're expected to pitchfork and torch, tar and feather, right? So, I always find it interesting when these stories are allowed to be seen, right? The fact that we're allowed to see this story is really interesting to me. Do I have the right story up? Yeah, senators. It starts with senators. Where did it go? I want to scroll through it. Yeah, here it is. What else do they say? A spending bill passed in late 2022 provided additional funds for hometown security measures for Congress. The legislation required security administrators to enhance member protection, including providing a security program for congressional leadership, expanding dignitary protection division services, and expanding the USCP field office presence, which could deploy and broaden Capitol Police protection in cities outside of Washington. Though the U.S. Capitol complex is shielded by a force of nearly 2,000 Capitol Police employees, there have been growing concerns about hometown security for members of Congress. A California man was charged in a 2022 attack at the San Francisco home of then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, right? We all remember that story, right? Where Paul Pelosi's lover came at him with an alleged hammer. And sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but how they expect us to believe these things. So in a May 15th attack at the Fairfax, Virginia office of Representative Jerry Connolly, one of Connolly's constituents is accused of attacking two of the congresswoman's staffers with a metal baseball bat, and both were briefly hospitalized. So they're just saying, we need these phones for security so that we have direct lines to like our private Capitol Police, our favorite Capitol Police members. What do you guys think? So I just found these particular stories to be really interesting. I'll go ahead and get rid of that screen and come back up. And, I just wanted to keep in pace with this idea that we have to say true things and we are allowed to speculate what these stories might mean. We're allowed to do that. And we should be thinking of things from all angles. We should be thinking the way some of you have commented here. Will there be a citizen uprising? Are they scared of us? Is this the equivalent? Is handing out satellite phones to members of Congress, is that the equivalent of Nixon being so afraid of the people that he put giant buses in front of the White House because he was afraid of the people throwing rocks and climbing through the windows and all that stuff? I don't know if you guys remember that story. So Robert says that he thinks that the phones are because the government is going to tighten the screws on the people, and so that they're anticipating a reaction. So yeah, that's like the second or third person who's actually said, something along those lines, that they're concerned about the people pushing back. And so these stories tell you where they are in their, in their mind. They tell you that if you really look at it, if you get to the heart of it, they tell you that they're afraid of us, right? If that's the truth, and that's what they really feel that they need these for, is that we're going to, react and go after them, or pitchforks and all that stuff, and civil war and all that, then that tells you that whatever it is that we are doing, which is nonviolent, nobody's committing any violence, is that it's working. So some guy that you listen to is expecting government-related and UFO-related events to happen this June or July, maybe just in time for Pride Month. Right. And I know that people have been, talking a lot about um, extraterrestrial life, I think. I don't know if I really believe that, but I do know. What I do believe is that AI is getting really good, and that as we move towards the election, it's going to be us going, okay, is what we're seeing real? Is that AI or is that real? Like, we're really going to have to use more discernment than we've ever had to use in the past to see if what's being fielded to us, especially through social media, is real or not. Right. And yeah, so the a lot of people do say that they're trying to take away our guns, and that seems to be the go-to. Michelle just said, they keep trying to take away our guns for the same reason. My feeling about the gun situation is that they're never going to fully take away the guns. They're never going to fully take away the Second Amendment. What they'll do is they'll make you jump through a million hoops to use your gun. Like for instance, I mean, this is over the top, right? But say you have a handgun. And now maybe your local state, it won't be a federal thing, it'll be a state thing. Your local state says, oh, well, you need bullets for those guns, right? Well, you better go register the bullets. So you got to walk over to the register office and register the bullets. So now you register the bullets and you register the gun, right? Oh, well, you have a gun and you have bullets and you need to clean it, right? So you need this specific type of cleaner. So it's all about a money-making scam, right? And all these hoops you have to jump through just to have a gun, and it's all local. So Pennsylvania has strict, gun laws. Maybe Wyoming doesn't have as strict gun laws. So the Federal Digital Platform Act of 2023. So I saw you, Kimberly. I saw that you had posted about that before, and um, I wanted to kind of tie that in with another article that I don't have up yet. So just bear with me while I bring it up. It's a story that was trending just yesterday or the other day. And there's information hidden within the story that I don't think people are fully grasping. Okay, so we'll start here. And this is about the fine, the $1.3 billion fine that Meta was just served with from a European council, right? Let's see. Let me pull up the story. Now, everybody in the whole world is covering this. You guys can see, whoop, let me get rid of this pop up. There we go. So Meta was fined a record $1.3 billion over EU user data transfers to the United States. So the Irish Data Protection Commission told Meta that they have to suspend all future transfer of personal data to the US. Meta was also told by this European privacy regulators council agency, which is led by the Irish Data Protection Commission. They were also told that they have to destroy all of the data that they have collected from their European users. That's huge. I wish somebody would advocate for United States users in the same way, but they're not. And so who is Meta? Well, Meta is Facebook, right? Meta is Mark Zuckerberg, correct? So, and what is what is the typical response to a Silicon Valley tech billionaire or a tech bro when you tell them that they've done a bad thing? They say, "Oh, well, that's okay. It's okay, right? I'll just change the law. And here's a bunch of money, and then you'll just change the law." So I feel that this is cover for something like that, and it's tied into the Federal Digital Platform Act of 2023, which Kimberly had talked about before. So I feel like, and I haven't had enough time to really like put two and two together, put it together. But you have to understand that first of all, I don't think Meta is going to pay the money because it's Silicon Valley. And we're basically ruled by our tech overlords at this point. And it was something that I believe it was either Zuckerberg or somebody else had said outright. So they're going to appeal. Of course, they're going to appeal the decision, and they're going to appeal the fine, the $1.3 billion fine. We are appealing these decisions and will immediately seek a stay with the courts, who can pause the implementation deadlines given the harm that these orders would cause, including to the millions of people who use Facebook every day. So the Meta case put focus back on the EU and Washington's push to get a new data transfer mechanism. The US and the EU last year, in principle, agreed to a new framework for cross-border data transfers. So what this does is this lawsuit allows Meta an opportunity to sort of reinvent the wheel. And through the reinvention of the wheel, as they appeal this fine and this decision, they will then be able to incorporate new policy structures within the reinvention of that wheel. I hope that makes sense to you. I hope you guys can follow my leaps of logic here. But this, I believe, will tie into language in the Federal Digital Platform Act. Yeah, so if there's no way for people to communicate on the internet, Kimberly, absolutely, people will be very upset. The internet is how my platform is able to reach an audience. Without it, I would have to get a movie screen and go to theaters and stream my video essays on a theater screen or something. And I suppose it could be done, but it would be difficult to get people to come out. So the internet is a great tool to share my work. There's a lot of division and anger, Robert says. I notice it comes up in so many just regular situations. Okay, that's no. Kimberly said that and was responding to Robert about that. Yes. Yeah, the tech industry is the one that has benefited the most in this COVID operation. A lot of people think that it was the pharmaceutical industry or the medical industrial complex. But I'm here to tell you it was the tech industry that benefited the most by deploying, or by the deployment of bad things, whether it was lockdowns or whether it was engineered bioweapons being marketed as vaccines, or bioweapons that are being marketed as pathogens even. So Redacted did a piece yesterday about censorship on all internet platforms. Totally outrageous. Believe me, you're preaching to the choir over here, Natasha. I am the most censored platform in existence. Meta has the power to change laws with the backing of the DoD, so they can't lose. So, right. So thank you, Kimberly, for sort of supporting my thought process on this, which I'm open to being wrong. So that's something else that, we definitely want to keep an eye on. We want to see, they're obviously going to appeal the decision, and they're obviously going to appeal the fine. And within that appeals process, it leaves them an opportunity to, like I said, reinvent the wheel, which is another way of saying that they want to get a new data transfer mechanism in place. What the heck does that mean, right? So, and what sort of laws can be changed as a result of that new data transfer mechanism? Or is the words new data transfer mechanism, is that just literally, it's literally just a word salad, and what we're really looking at is they want to rewrite the laws, which I think is more what they want to do. So you have to remember that, within these tech platforms, the one we're on, and then the other ones I'm on as well, because I'm on all the tech platforms right now, on all the social media platforms. Not all of them work together. They all want to be like, the most powerful, or, they all want to have the most funding or the most money or the most investors, right? So, people, you know, so Elon Musk might have some kind of beef with Mark Zuckerberg, kind of thing. So it's unfortunate that we have this awesome platform, the internet, to disperse knowledge at the same time that the general population is getting increasingly dumb. All right, so let's talk about that. Let's unpack that before I have to sign off, because I've been going at this for about an hour, and it's 3:00 in the afternoon here. I've got a little bit of time, but I was talking to JP about some of the frustrations that y'all are experiencing with your loved ones and your friends, how there is a wall. Do you feel that, Kimberly, do you feel that there is a wall up and it's impenetrable? Do you feel that when you're out and about, whether it's yoga class or a book club, and that you can't even engage in any kind of like respectful, adult, mature dialogue or conversation, that you're either just shut down or they just nitpick at the things that don't matter? I'm not sure. Well, you know what? I may as well go there. I have a friend who is increasingly becoming difficult for me to, it's becoming more and more difficult for me to deal with her. She's in San Francisco, so it's not like I see her every day, but she put up an image on Facebook. I'll see if I can describe it. I don't necessarily want to show you the post, because then it would give her name away, and that's not fair to her. So I will describe the image. It's the United States with legs. So the United States is a person, and the lower part of the United States, which is everywhere from like Arizona to Florida, is all inflamed. And is she family of Peep? I don't know what that, and I've never seen this this person. I may have to block them. We'll see. This person who just commented, I may have to block them. Hopefully not. So my friend, she put up this picture of the United States. The United States had legs like they were a person. And at the bottom portion of the United States, from Florida to like Arizona or something, it was all inflamed. And she said, and the United States tells the doctor that's standing in front of him, her, him, them, whatever, doc, it's really uncomfortable here. And they're pointing to Florida and Texas. So, and the doctor is like, I forget what the doctor's response, but it was really, oh, Pepe the Frog. No, she's liberal. Pepe the Frog, I thought was more like right wing. I don't know. But so it was really offensive because I'm like, wait a minute, I have family that live in Florida. I'll be in Mississippi next month. I have friends that live in Alabama and Georgia. All these people from the South that I know personally, and I know what kind of people they are, and I know how smart and amazing they are. And it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, how could somebody so smart say something or put something up that's so dumb? It was so dumb. Not only was it offensive, and so JP and I were trying to unpack it, trying to be all, you know, academic about it. Well, it's very myopic, he said. And I was just like, yeah, but it's also really dumb. It's really dumb to put up something like that. It shows your ignorance, even though you're trying to make all the people that live from Texas to Florida or wherever, even though you're attempting to make them ignorant. Like, it really just showed me how ignorant she was. So there was this wall of stupidity, this wall of myopia, or this wall of, not really understanding the nuances of the situation that we're in, and also just lumping everybody together that lives in the southern part of the country, lumping them all together as this one kind of person, which in her opinion are, I guess stupid and should be removed from the country. Like, this is what um, this is what a lot of people were saying to her post. They were saying, let's just cut that part of the country off. Let's just cut it out. I was just like, wow, that's terrible. I mean, these are this is your fellow countrymen, right? So no, what you did not hear cats outside. It's the little kids have come home from school and they're out playing in the backyard and yelling and riding bikes and stuff. So if you hear some high-pitched noises, it's usually the children in the neighborhood. So this really bothered me, this wall of ignorance, this wall of misunderstanding. Another friend talked about how it was driving her crazy, sleepless nights, getting worked up, feeling anxiety around this attempt to tell her loved ones, the truth about especially about the COVID operation and probably other things as well. And that she just couldn't get past the wall. So, do you guys think that there is something in the shot that's making their brain impenetrable, where they've lost the concept of um, uh, just friendly dialogue? Um, do you think that it's stress? Do you think that it's the media? Do you think it's a little bit of everything like that? I mean, what do you guys think? So this person who I've never seen before, who's commenting, said, nah. Brooke is saying it's possible. I think it's just frequency and trainment from the TV. So they've been hypnotized. That's what Natasha says. But the people that I know and that I'm really thinking of who are impenetrable, and they will not have a discussion. They won't even like admit that there's a problem in San Francisco, for instance, which is a whole other like podcast, a whole other broadcast. I might dip into it a little bit here, but they don't watch TV. They don't have TVs. So you can't really blame the TV, right? So Kimberly says, I'm thinking it's media. People attack and then think it's normal discourse. But the people that I'm talking about, they're never, ever on the attack. They usually just ghost or they just don't talk about it. Okay, so our new commenter says it's the ego. Kimberly, that's exactly right. They refuse to admit that there's a problem in San Francisco. The problem is so bad in San Francisco. Let me see if I can pull up this article. London Breed, who's the mayor of San Francisco, has to answer to all the district supervisors of the city in the first ever. This is from 21 hours ago. You may not be able to see it because San Francisco Chronicle tends to live behind a paywall. But let me see if I can grab the article. Hang on one sec. So this is how bad it's gotten in San Francisco. Oh dear. Back home. Yeah, I may not be able to show you the all right, do you guys see that? Oop. There we go. Do you guys see that? Do you see that headline right there? Okay. Mayor London Breed has to answer to supervisors. Sorry, it's behind a paywall, so you get this like pink pop-up in front of it. I wonder if there's another article that I can find. All right. Well, basically, what's going to happen is she's going to be pulled into basically the town square. And it's regarding fentanyl, yes. So she's going to be pulled into the town square. This is the first time that this has ever happened in the history of ever. All the district supervisors are going to grill her and basically put her on notice that what's happening in San Francisco is no longer acceptable. What needs to happen is that each supervisor needs to set aside their political positions and what side of the aisle they sit on, whether they're conservative or liberal, and they need to focus on this one issue, which is the fentanyl issue. Thousands of people have died. Dead bodies are lining the streets. I'm not kidding. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm being real. Yeah, and that the cartels have taken over. The locals are filming the cartels taking over. It's a serious, serious problem in San Francisco. And so now they're hauling the mayor out basically to the town square in the middle of this area in the middle of downtown San Francisco called the UN Plaza. And they're going to just put her on notice and say, what are you doing to fix this? All of these policies that you have supported are not working, like harm reduction and things like that. This is how serious it is. I mean, this has never happened before. So I guess what I'm trying to say regarding that wall, that impenetrable wall where you can't even reach people, is I have friends that live in San Francisco that are just like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. If it's not that bad, then why do you have to haul the mayor out into the middle of the town square and basically humiliate her and force her to do something? Right. So to statistics wise, there's been like a huge overdose. The people that are living, and stepping over the dead bodies and walking around the drug addicts and walking around the toxic mess that it is, they're the ones that are saying that COVID has nothing on the fentanyl issue. I mean, there's a woman whose limbs were rotting and she had to have her legs cut off and she's back out on the street now in a wheelchair with no legs. In and out of hospitals. These addicts are overdosing on the street. They're dying. There isn't enough services to pick up the dead bodies. That's how bad it is. Some people might say, oh, well, what about the fancier neighborhoods? They're starting to creep into those neighborhoods, and everything has been shut down. Everything in San Francisco has been shut down. There's no business. There's no real economy. There's no retail economy. I have a friend who won't even step out of her house, and she lives in a beautiful flat with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge, you know? So it's bad there. And so I guess what I was trying to ask and what I was trying to stress is that we're dealing with a society that just is incapable of accepting the truth, even when the truth is right there in front of them. And so where does that come from? Where does that level of disconnect, of that holding on to this magical thinking or this fantasy or this idea that things are okay, things are really okay, like where does that come from? Does it come from desperation? Where does that deep denial come from? Did something happen in their childhood that was so tragic, and all of this COVID operation and the fentanyl stuff and everything, does it trigger that trauma? And so they simply can't accept it because they've spent an entire life pushing down the trauma from their childhood, and they don't want to see anything or admit to anything that would cause that trauma to reinvent itself in them. I'm just throwing out ideas here because I've never seen anything like it. This refusal to accept the truth, this impenetrable wall that just is, you cannot get through. You know, and so when there are people that do come out and they have been able to admit that they were wrong in the beginning, like Scott Adams, for instance, the Dilbert creator, he has made all sorts of revelations about things, you know, and he's coming around. It's like you want to encourage those people, because especially influencers like that, you want to encourage them because maybe it will encourage other people to break down their walls. So the government is not addressing the biggest problems, so people in denial feel like pretending to. There is that as well. And Brooke, I'm really sorry to hear about your sister. That is really tragic. And so what was Zachary saying about Bar Harbor? Bar Harbor, Maine is a fancy neighborhood, and it's hitting the rich folk there too. And London, I guess, zombie behavior, right? The trank that causes the zombie behavior. So the zombie behavior is like, I've seen it with my own two eyes. I wish I hadn't, but I've seen it with my own two eyes where, you know, right before we left San Francisco in 2018, I saw a girl in the middle of Market Street in downtown San Francisco, like yelling and screaming and flailing her arms around and acting crazy and ripping at her clothes. And I was just like, you know, and when they're like that, you don't know if they're just if something is gonna like switch and they'll just then come after you. So you're just like, you don't know. You're always like on edge. You don't know if the zombies are going to come after you now. So it reminds me of the CDC's warning about the zombies. Maybe it was really just about, you know, people who are addicted to fentanyl. So let's see. Bar Harbor is the tourist destination for Acadia National Park. Had two local people doing cocaine a few weeks ago over overdose on fentanyl because it was in the cocaine and they had no idea. We can thank the cartels for that, right? Yeah. So, and lack of affordable housing too is as big a crisis. So I think that, what we're seeing in San Francisco, this just complete and total destruction of that city from within, is sort of a trial balloon. I feel like they're just trying it out on San Francisco. And so that's why when people don't pay attention to what's going on in this city, it's like if you don't pay attention and then get ahead of it, because you will see it in your neighborhoods, then you can expect the same outcome. And we've got to get ahead of it. So I want to thank you guys for sticking with me this whole time. I don't know if you like this new this new way of streaming. I'm much more comfortable when it's just my voice. I don't like being on camera that much. But this time I thought, well, if I put some pretty flowers in the background, maybe it'll be kind of fun. And then I can read all of your comments as well, which I really like the interactive approach to this way of doing things. So I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. I will include all the links when I go in and edit things, and it'll be right there for everyone to share. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now, and I will probably have more things coming down the pike in the future. I've got something that I'm working on. It's a video essay about sadism. I'm still working on it, still doing it. And then there's another video that I want to put together that I did in the same way that I did the Catherine Watt videos, where I said Catherine Watt in her words. I want to do that for somebody else that deserves some attention, I think. So give me a little bit of time to work on that as well, because she packs in a lot of information. It's very overwhelming, and she talks very fast. So I want to make sure that I get it all in and get it right. So look out for that as well. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed the orange poppies. They're one of my favorite flowers ever. All right, have a good afternoon. Bye, guys. Thanks.